Through. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Everybody Loves Bliss. I'm Bliss, and next to me is my co host, Ross Cooper. Say hi to the people, Ross.
What's going on, everybody?
I see you kept the beard.
For
Uh,
the moment, for the moment, it oh boy, I don't know how folks do it, man. I don't know how folks do it. It feels all weird. I'm used to being babyface. This is so
well,
odd.
listen, I told you the women like you. I don't know if you saw the comments.
I
You,
did it. I gotta take a peek.
yeah, I think you need to take a look at the comments because the women like it. And yeah, I think it works for you. I listen. I lie to you?
No, I just feel
Mm,
I feel older. It's like, gosh,
I
I
don't
feel
know.
older.
Maybe the women say distinguish. I think go with what the ladies like, but that's up to you. But hey, we are recording early. See, the people don't know we record. We seem to get extreme. This is extreme for me. Extreme hours. We're either really early or really late. So we're really early this morning. So I didn't start drinking. I don't have wine this morning. It's a little too early even for me to have wine. So yeah. So
Regretfully, I have a bottle of water. Worry
oh,
not. I'm gonna be recycling these because as you know, I'm in Texas and the whole universe shut down. So I actually had to buy a bottle of water.
okay. Do you have running water now? Let's get to that before we start the show.
Yeah. Running water, life is pretty much my water doesn't get as hot as it did. I put in a service call for that, but that's small potatoes.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
like
have
okay,
it at least. Okay,
right.
cool. Well, the people loved when we did our last review of a film. So, folks had asked me about the film we're going to talk about today. The United States versus Billie Holiday. Were we going to talk about it? I had not really planned on doing so, but we were able to get a screener. So that means we got to screen it early. Today is the actual day that it will be opening for everyone. Today is Friday the 26th. And so I think it's available now on Hulu, but we were able to watch it early. In fact, I had to watch it twice. And then I had
Mm.
to watch a Billie Holiday documentary after it. That's how much this film inspired me to know and do more. So let's get into it. So it's the United States versus Billie Holiday, starring Andra Day, who is, by the way, this weekend, if you guys pay attention to such things, is nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Actress. This film is directed by Lee Daniels, who, by the way, let me just say this up front. You know that Lee Daniels seems to be magic for Black women winning awards. Did you know that?
I did not know that. He's got a
Okay.
lot more projects than I knew of. Like, I know some of his small screen work, but I wasn't aware he had such a presence on the big screen.
Yeah, Lee Daniels, in fact, is the director of Precious, the movie. And he also directed Monsters Ball. He's also there's a film like I can't think of the name of it. It is probably my favorite Cuba Gooding Jr. performance. Where he plays the hitman and he and oh gosh, I can't think of it. He and Ellen Mirren are lovers. It is to me the best performance. I'll get the name of it before we finish up. But Lee Daniels, as I was saying, has this magic for Black women, and it's here's the combination. It's Lee Daniels, downtrodden Black character, and illicit sex scene, and there's an award. I'm telling you, Halle Berry, Monsters Ball. I mean, it's just not. It no, I'm not saying it as a. It has been the combination. Halle Berry, Monsters Ball, Monique Precious. So that combination seems to win awards. So Andrew Day, I think, is going to win a few awards based on this film because you
It
got all
feels
the elements.
okay.
What? What?
Nothing. I thought about it that way. I thought Andrew Day did a great job. I really thought she did a great
Oh,
job.
I listen. So that people know, Andrew Day is the singer whose hit record "Rise Up" people are probably familiar with. her first acting role. Okay, first acting role. So she is carrying the lead in a major film. And as you know, films don't have to be in the movie theaters to be major films anymore. So Hulu, this Hulu release that comes out today, Andra Day her first acting role. Her first acting role. Um, the word is she did not want to take on the role initially, turned it down several times. Lee Daniels has even said he didn't want her initially and was looking at some Hollywood heavyweights to play the role, but that after reluctantly auditioning Andra Day several times, decided that she would be the choice for Billie Holiday. And I think that, in looking over, in watching the film twice, I've seen the film twice, I think they made a good choice. Um, I'm going to say this. I think that for me, what is memorable is the story itself. And we're going to talk about that. By the way, this we're going to spoil it. So if you don't want spoilers, you want to turn this podcast off because we're gonna spoil. We have to, don't you think?
Yeah, you can't really Siskel and Ebert this thing. We got to talk about it for real.
We got to talk about it because there's so much that you get from this film, um, that you don't know just about. First of all, everyone thinks that Billie Holiday died of a drug overdose.
Myself included.
I even though I've not seen Lady Sings the Blues in a long time, I thought that that was the implication in that movie that she died, that she OD'd. She did not. She actually died. She actually would you call that murder?
I still have to understand what happened because as I saw it, it was she had cirrhosis of the liver, which can be a killer in of itself. And then she had the addiction issue, was going to be taking off methadone. So I was kind of confused on exactly how she died. But it
Okay,
did not appear. One thing it was very clear, it was not an OD. It
it
was
was not
not
in
an
it.
OD.
It was not in it. So it dispels that rumor, that myth about her, definitively. This film does. But what it also does, because it is United States versus Billie Holiday, we did not know until this film that Billie Holiday led pretty much the movement of the civil rights movement, meaning civil rights movement, if you look it up, it definitively is defined as 1955 through 1968. We know that civil rights, the conversations of fighting against injustice started way before then. But if it's given a time frame, even though it's still going on now, okay, we're still fighting now. The anti-lynching bill that it speaks to in the film, the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, was revisited by Congress in 2019. It still has not passed. So civil rights is still now. But if we're talking at the specific era, we're looking at 1955 until what, when they killed Martin Luther King, 1968. Then it's like that's when it was over. That's when it's over. So, and Billie Holiday winds up dying in 1959. But anyway, what the film talks about is that what brought the United States against Billie Holiday was the song that she sang, Strange Fruit. Now, I had heard Strange Fruit. It is hard to listen to, and what the song speaks to is lynching. The fruit itself that she's speaking to, is the bodies of Black folks hanging from poplar trees all over the South. That I, folks, if you don't know that, you know nothing about American history, not Black history, but American history. So the song speaks to that. And the United States did not want her to sing the song publicly because it would incite the actual movement, the further organization. Afraid she was going to incite riots with this song. So they, Harry Ansley, was it Ainsley? Was it,
I
am I
believe
saying,
so. I
uh,
believe that's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Harry Ainsley, I think that I'm saying the name. I have notes all over the place. I took notes. Um, Harry Ainsley was, the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics during that time. And he made it his business to go after Billie Holiday. He didn't go after her just for the song, though. That was one of the reasons why he went after her. He went after her too because she was powerful, Black female, and he thought of her as uppity, which is the term that white folks use when Black folks are successful and won't back down. So
Get
there's
out of
so
here.
much to unpack in this film. First of all, did you know that Strange Fruit, they kind of lead to it, but Strange Fruit is written by a Jew, a Jewish man who was a communist. Abel Mekropol wrote the song. He was a teacher. He was a communist, a Russian Jew, and first published the song. It was a Marxist poem, so it wasn't even considered a song. It was written in 1939. So speaking about the time frame, so when we talk about, that's why I said civil rights have really, the discussion of civil rights had started way before 55. The song is written in 39. She recorded it in 41. You see, I did my homework on Billie Holiday in this song. But so somehow she gets the song, she records it. She had to get permission from her record company, which I think it was Columbia at the time. I'm not sure, to even record the song. They reluctantly recorded the song. Now, keep in mind, this is after the God Bless the Child, Billie Holiday. She had done, she had actually recorded God Bless the Child by this time, which was a song she actually wrote with Benny Goodman. So she had gained popularity. This is a woman who's only, by this time in 39, she's only 24, had been working the circuit for, by this time, for about 10 years. So this is someone who had built a reputation, decides to release this song, After God Bless the Child, which was a major hit for her, called Strange Fruit. And here we have it. The government is like, okay, you done made too much money as a Black female. You too popular. Now, because she had integrated, I mean, she had done things that women had not done. She had been with integrated bands. Benny Goodman didn't integrate his band until he met Billie Holiday. So the father of swing, by the way, which uh, you know, okay. If you understand jazz, you'll understand how humorous it is that Benny Goodman was ever known as the king of swing. But okay, go ahead in this. You look like you want to get in this on this conversation because we got a lot to unpack
Yeah, I was
about
gonna say it's a lot to touch. I'm like,
Ainslinger, wasn't it?
I, I
Oh
believe
Lord,
I was trying to look it up. I was trying to
I'm
look it
gonna
up
look
as we
it up.
speak.
But go ahead
But
and see what you say while I'm looking it up.
it's a lot. It is just it's a female woman Black comedian that had a joke a few weeks back about White History Month, and I definitely say this needs to be added to the White
Oh
History
my
Month
goodness.
playlist
Oh
because
my goodness.
it's just I don't
Anslinger.
think
I'm sorry, Anslinger.
there we go.
I saw the movie twice and couldn't remember. Okay.
I just don't think your everyday white person right now understands a lot of what they stand for is it sits on a bed of lies. And I don't mean your MAGA racist. No, I mean your everyday white person that loves to bring up the founding fathers and loves to talk about how great a country America is and we got the greatest government in the world. I don't think you understand that if you turn a page of history back just a generation or two, there were Black people hanging from trees. Your very beloved government that you championed so much, that you felt Colin Kaepernick, the football player, disrespected so wholly, this very same government was okay with lynching. And almost you can infer by default, given the fact that this bill hasn't passed, is still okay.
I was gonna say it's still okay with lynching. Obviously, anytime it was revisited in 2019 and still isn't has not passed. What the entire I'm gonna curse early in the morning. What the fuck? I mean, what are we? I mean, that's why this film is so important. The things that you unpack and you understand about what's happening, what happened then, and what is happening now.
Mm,
Um, and the fact that here's the other thing. What happens to music, and we're going to hit about what we have today. It's powerful. Artists are powerful. Okay, the music
mm,
is powerful. And I think when you listen to take a genre like hip hop, you don't have any conscious rap that gets played on the radio anymore. You got mumble rap and trap. That doesn't happen by accident. And people think that it does, but it doesn't happen by accident because the government and the powers that be understand how to control the mindset and the movement of the people by controlling what they have access to. Feed them this bullshit, this garbage, and you'll get certain behavior. It is
Mhm.
not by accident. And if you miss that by seeing this film, you're missing a whole lot.
Yeah,
You are
I
missing
mean,
a whole lot if you miss that in the film. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here early because we talked about this. You have to wonder, for all of you people who scream um, conspiracy theories when people make connections, you've got to wonder, when artists start to take power or try to take their own power from record companies and they wind up dead, is that by accident? It makes you really wonder, because you said, well, we had this conversation offline. I
right.
said, well, it's interesting now seeing this film, how anyone can question or not even consider the deaths of Michael Jackson and Prince at the time when, well, Michael had, most people don't know that Michael owned half of Sony Publishing, okay? And Sony wanted the publishing back. He first they went after him trying to say he was a child molester. That didn't stick. He was crazy and broke. That we found out that wasn't true. Then finally you OD him. Prince dies right after he gets his catalog. And I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna stay here. I'm just saying, why is it now when you consider the extent that the government and corporations have gone to get rid of people? See, the same kind of people that run the government run major corporations like Sony and, well, I guess I'm not, listen, I guess my days with Sony or Warner Brothers are major. I'm just saying that run major corporations. Let me not, I've already named names. That the mindset, the kind of mindset, the greed, the kind of ruthlessness that it takes to run, the connections, the rumor connections with mafia, all of that has been historical. I mean, come on, we know record labels from, if you looked at Cadillac Records, you know there's always been questionable. There's always been that, even with the black. I mean, Death Row Records. You know that there's corruption and people will do anything to keep. So when you see that the government went after Billie Holiday the way that they did, and we're going to talk about the men they used. Oh my God, because there's a statement of brothers, black men, that comes up from this. But it doesn't, it kind of, you kind of can open, it opens the sphere of what you understand is possible. We don't know that I can't prove to you that, even though Michael said it himself in a few interviews, if you look at some older interviews, the ones where he's over in Europe talking about he was afraid that Sony was going to come after him, kill him. Prince all of a sudden gets his catalog, he's gone. Uh, Sam Cooke, I mean, what I mean, it's to me, you kind of go, okay, now okay. If anybody
Um,
yelled conspiracy, how do you after seeing this film and it's documented, I mean,
I mean, I
so
see both sides of it. I see from what you're saying, it's a very short fence between the two. But my argument, or I don't know if I'd say a counter argument, was that when the US government got involved, it was to preserve a way of life. It was to preserve a white supremacy. It was to keep Negroes from being antagonizers and things like that. And it wasn't just, here. If you understand history and music history, Bob Marley, they had, the powers that be had an issue with Bob Marley using his music to bring about
well,
peace.
that's always been. I mean, there was a federal agent that already admitted that he was part of the murder of Bob Marley.
Wow. There was
Unintentionally. Yeah, they used they injected him in his, this is the story, allegedly, that there was they planted something in his shoe initially, that this, and I know this sounds, I know somebody's going to be listening to go, that sounds crazy. I don't give a I don't care. This is
it,
the alleged story. They planted something in his shoe that started some kind of viral something in his shoe that later eventually turned into major cancer, because that is an unusual cancer.
yeah.
Cancer of the pill that metastasizes all throughout your body and winds up in your brain and killing you.
Eh, I mean, they now the interesting thing is they go as far as killing the black performers because as you know, I'm a Lennon person, and the U.S. government wanted John Lennon deported. They deemed him an enemy of the state, and they wanted him deported. Now, mind you, all he ever said was, "I have a problem with war." He wrote a song, "Give Peace a Chance," and he and Yoko Ono staged a bed-in, not a demonstration, not a protest per se, a bed-in,
And
and the
they were
U.S. government wanted him
right.
out of the country.
They were on the hit list. Everybody knows that. I mean, if you don't, you know. But
Yeah,
I don't want to get off the subject of Billie Holiday, but
right. But that's what's going like. That's why it's easier to, if you will say, to digest the U.S. government putting its weight behind it to take out these artists who are looking to upset a certain way of life versus, well, I want Michael and Prince out here just because we need money. Like,
no, 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 no. It is a way of life. It is controlling the artist. It's keeping the money with the major corporation. White, white, when you say major corporation, white owned, white dominated. And powers that be, oh God, here we go. I don't want to get into, but it is the same idea. And the same kind of
yeah,
people that take those positions in government take the same positions in major companies. The mindset is the same. So anyway,
mhm,
it was the Federal Bureau of Narcotics that went after her, and they used, here's the sad part, they used the black agent, Jimmy Fletcher. Now I told you this. I told you one of the things that I had a real problem with this film is that to me that relationship was romanticized in a way that I really did not like. But I had to get out of my own head. Okay. So I had to, no, I did. Because, what happens in the film is that there's a black agent named Jimmy Fletcher who is hired by the Federal Bureau of Narcotics to infiltrate. And that was the practice of the time. You had black agents, and probably now, I mean, if they go after someone, I guess. So they had black agents that would infiltrate into the community and whoever they wanted information. I mean, I haven't seen the new Fred Hampton film, but it's the same. It's the same approach. I mean,
ooh,
with Martin, with Malcolm, with Fred Hampton, it's the same thing. You use somebody black, you hire somebody black to infiltrate, usually a black male. I'm just saying, black men generally. And so they use this guy. He posed as a fan and as a potential lover and set her up. Her first major setup where she went to jail. We're spoiling it for you. She goes to jail initially for a year and a day. She pleads guilty. She's talked into pleading guilty because she thinks she's going to get treatment. She's already a major addict right now. She's gone from now. Billie Holiday is a true story in gateway drugs because she starts with smoking reefer, then she goes to smoking hop, then eventually she's cocaine. She's freebasing. So this is what's happening with her. She likes men and women. So we're going to talk about that too. And so this agent, Jimmy Fletcher, sets her up. But eventually in the film, they develop a relationship, which I thought, I really, I told you this. I was like, I think Lee Daniels really romanticized that relationship in a way that it bothered me. It
really?
bothered me. Yes, yes, because she forgives him and he comes back into her life and he becomes a major part of her life until she dies. And she starts to trust him, even though, I mean, he did what kind of sort of save her this because she's set up again. Here's what's so insane is that Harry Anslinger is obsessed with her. I almost wondered, almost wondered about this. They don't allude to it. They allude more to him hating her. I wonder if he was obsessed with her because he had an attraction to her. I think that probably would have been no, 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 no. You see, you're shaking your head. He wouldn't have dared act on it because his pride in the position. But I wonder if there was some attraction to her. That's not unusual. Do you know how many? That's not unusual. You know how many? I mean, historically, the slave owner hates the slave. She's filthy. She's disgusting, but he wants to sleep with her. I think that underneath it all, Anslinger had an attract. He was obsessed with her. This head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. He was
I think he
obsessed with
was.
it.
I mean, you very well could be right. I just think at that point in time, and that's something I think that is carried over to now, he is simply a white man drinking the America Kool-Aid. He is all about country
Bling
and patriotism, and I've
and
got to do this
control,
for my country.
and by
And that was it.
controlling her. And so you think it's just that she won't stop singing the song and it's control, and they can use the fact that she's a drug addict to go after to continue going after her. You think that that's? I'm just asking. You might
Yeah,
be
yeah, because it's like, especially given that time frame, like you alluded to the black men, but the thing about Billy, and I think this was highlighted in the movie as well, she was this beautiful, remarkable thing. And men, it was always, well, I want to control that thing because this thing is actually greater than me. She is greater than me in stature, in talent, in everything. The people come to see her. I'm not that, but I can control and possess that.
well, part of and you lead to what's really important that comes out in this film. Remember, I told you initially, I when I first watched, I was like, the sexualization, because there's sex in the film, and you see the kind of we always give it away. There's a kind of sex that she has that initially, but then it's this federal agent who introduces her to a let me, because I'm not
Hey,
explaining this well. If you're listening to this, you're like, what kind of sex is she
well,
talking about? What kind
oh,
of,
pick me, I can do it.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I think the what was shown, and it's an interesting, great directing piece there. It's an interesting juxtaposition
It
because
is.
the initial sex is hard and
It's
it's
rough,
borderline brutal.
masochistic, really.
Right, it's borderline brutal. And with the federal agent towards the end, it's what we've come to identify as lovemaking. It is tender, it is soft, it is slow, it is deliberate.
And
That was the difference.
and she's in the scene where you see her with the agent and they're having sex and then it turns into making love. He introduces it to her and she's reluctant. So here's what was important to me. I initially watching the movie, the two times I watched it, I was like, Lord, Lee Daniels, here you go. But let me just tell you, I told you I also watched the documentary. Let me
Mhm.
tell you about the documentary real quick. I don't want to take away from United States versus Billie Holiday, but there's also a documentary called Billie by John Erskine. John Erskine is a filmmaker who got the tapes of a writer journalist named Linda Lipnick Kuehl, Kuehl, who spent a decade studying and collecting interviews with people who knew Billie Holiday. It was her desire either to do a film or a book on Billie Holiday. Somehow that never happened because she winds up dead in 1978. Supposedly, Linda Kuehl killed herself, but her family has never been comfortable with that answer as to how she died.
Hmm.
She and her death came as she supposedly jumped out the window of her home and jumped to her death. But here's the crazy thing about Linda Kuehl. There's things that came up in the documentary. She had again been studying Billie Holiday and collecting information from people that knew her, band members, all kinds of folks. Um, During that time, she also developed a relationship with Count Basie and had claimed that not only behind collecting the information on Billie Holiday, but because of her relationship with Count Basie, she had started to be threatened. Um, it does not, from the documentary, it doesn't delve deep into what was happening with Billie and the United States government, even though she did uncover that information. But it is strange that this woman who had no reason to kill herself and who was a writer did not leave a letter. It is also implicated at the end of the film that the police department somehow lost a lot of the information investigative information around her death.
Sure they
And
did.
that her sister had in the film states that she had a nighttime routine. Like before she went to bed, she put on her face mask, wrapped her hair up, got herself together. When she died, she was in a robe, had her face mask on, had, I mean, just really unusual. Anyway, so that's never been solved. Whatever happened to this journalist who was collecting information? I don't know if she was starting to get closer to the information about the United States government being behind Billy's death, because remember, that had not been fully exposed by that time, even though Lady Sings the Blues had already come out. Which we're going to talk about too, about the differences in Lady Sings the Blues, which is the film from 40 some years ago by Motown star and Diana Ross, about how the relationships are portrayed versus this film. But back to the sex, I said all that to get back to the sex. It is uncovered in this documentary that Billy was hypersexual. And even though it alludes to it in the Lee Daniels film, United States versus Billie Holiday, the relationship with her and Tallulah Bankhead, you tease it, like he teases at it, like you see Tallulah Bankhead. And again, Tallulah Bankhead was a very famous white actress from those times, who is now, we know, had a thing for chocolate, because it wasn't just Billie Holiday. It was, there were major Black actors and musicians she was associated with, linked to Hattie McDaniels, also, who is our favorite grandmother in Gone with the Wind, who, now we know was bisexual, who, who was like I, the favorite, I was going to say favorite mammy figure, but I mean, I mean, not to discount who she was, because she did win the Oscar. Was it the Oscar nomination? Or she won the Oscar.
I believe
So,
so.
an important character, but she was linked to Tallulah Bankhead. So Tallulah Bankhead had been linked to several Black artists of the time. So you hint at it in the Lee Daniels film, but it actually is exposed in the Billy documentary that Billie Holiday ran women like she had like a pimp, like she controlled her women like a pimp, and had been at one point a prostitute. So that rough entanglement with sex and control, that was part of who she was. So once I saw that, I was okay with Lee Daniels and his salacious sex scene. I was
I
seriously,
mean,
it took me two views and a documentary to be like, okay, Lee Daniels, you didn't just add that sex because you like to add sex. Because I told you that's his combination.
well,
There's
I
a
mean,
black
looking at
woman
that,
is sex, and there's the Oscar. So go ahead.
I gotta give him credit for using sex ironically as a device. Because now, with that in mind, now that I wasn't aware, or either I forgot he was responsible for Monsters Ball. So now I understand the explosive sex scene between Holly and Billy Bob, and using that as a device. It kind of makes a lot more sense now, knowing that's his motif.
Well, supposedly, here I go. Supposedly, what you saw with Billy Bob and Hallie, he supposedly allowed them to decide how that sex scene was going to go. All I'm going to say is after that movie came out, both Hallie and Billy Bob got divorced. That's all. And Lee Daniels was like, they chose that. I didn't choose that. However, the combination did get Hallie and Oscar. And in Precious, Monique, you don't see the sex like you do, but the implication of her molesting her daughter is there. And it's, yeah. So anyway, so the sex is really important to what who Billie Holiday is, who her character is, because she would not have been like masochistic. And friends in the documentary actually described her as masochistic in relationships and sexually masochistic. Like the turn on of being and you see her in the film being beat by several of her lovers. And the implication, or not the implication, what is stated in the documentary from the friends is that that was sort of the turn on. We see in the film, we see out of the men, the only one who doesn't beat her is the one who betrayed her. So that she needed some kind of betrayal. But in the film, you see that once he turned the sex into lovemaking, she was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, it's just one of those, you're so used to things being brutal and being rough and being, it's just almost transactional, that we're going to add the emotional piece. There's a way to do this where you can actually involve the emotion and the feel to it. It's not just transactional and, a gateway to an orgasm, but there's something more that is exchanged here. So and it was like, wow, that very brief scene explained a lot. Like, so you're really not used to someone being tender.
Well, here's the thing, and we both talked about this. I had listened to Ain't Nobody's Business. I guess in passing. I had
Ooh.
listened to it in passing. When I'm listening to it in the film, I'm like, holy crap, this song
It's
is the
just a
most
just a battered woman's anthem. Like, no, this
oh
is
my
not
God.
okay.
Ain't
This is not
Nobody's Business
okay.
is probably you hear when you hear it in the film, it was like that was the first time I'd ever heard it. I and it's kind of like those, it's like a bop when you've heard it before and everybody's ain't nobody's even when I think back to Lady Sings the Blues, it's like, Diana's like, and everybody's bopping. The lyrics are horrendous.
Because I'm like, I don't know if you've heard Christina's Ain't No Other Man. Love that song. Christina Aguilera's Ain't No Other Man.
No.
And I'm thinking it's gonna go that way. And I hear the lyrics like, whoa, this is not, oh, ooh, and no one's got a problem with this. This is okay.
Well, it is the song of Billie Holiday. I mean, the songs of Billie Holiday, even Lover Man or Where Can Be, it's the downtrodden woman. It is the downtrodden woman. It is the woman who takes abuse. Ain't Nobody's Business is specifically about taking abuse. It is about, if I should take a notion to jump on in the ocean, ain't nobody's business if I do. If I should give him my last nickel and he leaves me in a pickle, ain't nobody's business if I do. I'd rather have him beat me than ever leave me. Ain't nobody's business. I mean, that is some toxic shit.
Cringy, the cringe level
Cringy.
10, cringe level 10.
And I actually, and I did. Remember, I told you, I was like, oh my God. It was like, I had never heard that song before in my life. That's how it felt hearing those lyrics. So that speaks to the abuse because we see four men. We see in the film, we see Jimmy Monroe, we see John Levy, who is the most brutal. And to the documentary, when you go to the documentary, he was, in fact, the most brutal of the men she loved. And it took her the longest to leave him. What you find out in the documentary, he was the most brutal. He was a pimp. He was, um, I think he ran drugs as well. He also set her up. The federal government got, so we're talking about at least two of the men set her up, and then the husband, Louis McKay, who she was married to when she actually dies. She had tried to divorce him. She was supposed to divorce him. In the film, he's talking about signing papers. You think he's talking about divorce. He ain't talking about divorce because he ain't trying to leave her. He was trying to get her to sign papers for the federal government. They were going to pay him off. You don't get that in the film, but they were going to give him a handsome stipend for getting her to, it's in the movie, it's a that they wanted her to name her sources where she was getting her drugs. They didn't want her, which is crazy because really they wanted her to stop singing the song, but that was kind of their way of continuing to go after her. On her deathbed, they're asking her to name her sources. He's leading that charge, and she was supposed to divorce him. She doesn't get a chance to divorce him. So at the end of her life, Louis McKay, who is her last husband, who is a user, who is, interestingly enough, let's talk about this. Louis McKay in the film is so different from what we saw. If you've ever seen Lady Sings the Blues, you have suave, beautiful, gorgeous Billy Dee Williams playing Louis McKay. In Lady Sings the Blues, he is the most loving. He is so hurt that she won't come off of drugs. He's beautiful. He's well put together. In this film, he is the pits. He is a
Mhm.
user. You see how much less attractive he. I mean, because
By standards. And it's just,
I feel like I'm insulting the actor, but
he's
he's
not
the
Billy D. He's not Billy D.
he's the least attractive of the mates that you see her with in this film. And I think Lee Daniels, in terms of of actually casting, did a beautiful job, because most of the characters, if you go to real life, look like the characters, real life characters. He did a great job in terms of making people look like they look, but they used a much, he's such a contrast to Lady Sings the Blues. And you wonder, well, why would Motown? Well, come to find out, because I did my research, Louis McKay was a major consultant on Lady Sings the Blues. From the
Mhm.
documentary, he was a notorious liar, lied about the way his relationship went, and influenced Lady Sings the Blues. That's why you have Billy D. That's why you have this suave, loving character who is so hurt that Billy Holiday won't come off drugs. Where in real life, he was like,
He was
stay high,
trash.
get that money. He was trash. He was a trash man. So I thought that that was also a major change in what you got to know from this film versus if you saw the 1970s version with Dinah Ross. Full circle too. Let me mention this, and I know you want to get in. Evan Ross is in the film, Dinah Ross's son. He's another federal. He's a shitty character too, because he's a federal agent that's basically supporting going after. And he, it's just work, and a brother got to pay his bills and that kind of thing. But it's a horrible. It's to me, this movie is also a very truthful but hard pill to swallow about Black men not protecting Black women. I know you want in on this. Good. Let me be quiet. So go ahead and
I
yeah.
was gonna say it's that's oh, I'm so cautious on that one. It is certainly a referendum at certain junctures about Black men not protecting Black women. It is also to me like um it's more to a degree, especially with the last example, a Black man not seeing all Black women as part of the collective, because he had no problem throwing Billie Holiday under the bus as long as it meant his wife and kids or whatever were okay. And it's problematic there,
You're
because
talking
that
about the
last
Evan
agent.
Ross character.
Yeah, because I'm like, I got a family to take care of. So your wife and your kids are okay. You can throw this other Black woman that has nothing to do with you under the bus, though. You're okay with that. And it's the lack of seeing, look, we are a collective. We are all children of diaspora. So it's something I have an issue with, not to go too far off, something I have an issue with some brothers present day. I call it mother, sister, daughter syndrome, where if it's your mother, your sister, your daughter, cool. Don't you dare insult my mother, sister, my daughter. But that bitch over there, whatever. Like, no, 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 no.
And it was so much you just went you just muted. And even what bothers me in the film is that it takes the Jimmy Fletcher character devalues her initially. It is his mama is telling him, "What are you doing?" His mama is like, "I can't believe you. Why would you do this? This girl's a hero." Even his mama is like, "What is wrong with you? What is
Stop being a
going
damn
on?
sellout.
You a damn self for no reason." And Jimmy Fletcher is a real character, by the way. He isn't a made up character. There's some characters in the film that are made up. I think the two friends, the female friend and the gay male friend, I think are made up characters. There's sort of a mixture of probably people around her. The band uh, um, mate Perez is a real character. So there are characters that are made up, and most of the characters are real, true to life. Jimmy Fletcher is a real life character. One of the things that I do not know is if it's really truthful, or if Lee Daniels took liberties, is about the relationship, about how far that relationship went with with Billie Holiday. If you look at the documentary, all of the lovers that are in the film are mentioned except for Jimmy Fletcher as lover. And when I did some other research, I didn't see that readily available. So I think that use of this character is a use. I think he's supposed to be a character that you have sympathy for, because he is kind of in this position of I think I'm doing something for the cause of trying to save my people, and finds out he's kind of like the Martin Luther King thing. I'm trying to save you, but I realize I'm leading you into a burning house. He has
Mm-hmm.
led himself into a burning house by believing being a federal agent is helping Black folks, that he's keeping drugs off the street, all the while the United States is ushering them in to the
Right. That's the dichotomy. Like, you
that's
understand
what
the folks you
it
work
always
for are creating the very problem you're trying to fight.
but it always
Right.
has been. It always has been. reefer's the problem, marijuana's right. Even though I didn't know at some point reefer, marijuana, when it was called reefer, there's a point in the 30s where it was not illegal, where Billie Holiday would perform in places like major places like Apollo, and reefer is everywhere. Everybody's smoking because for a minute it wasn't illegal, then it became illegal. I didn't know that. I learned that from the documentary, not the film United States versus Billie Holiday. So I think that Lee Daniels uses Jimmy Fletcher in a way to to make the point about the sexuality and the sex, and not the sexuality but the sex and what sex meant to her, because she was a sexual dynamo, and the control issue and the masochistic um way that sex had been, she had understood sex, because remember being introduced to sex as watching her mom be a prostitute, so, and her first sexual experience as a 10-year-old being raped. So, and love not, love had to come with pain. So that he uses this character to change that narrative. And part of that is that we do know that Jimmy Fletcher, the real life Jimmy Fletcher, lived the rest of his life regretting what he did to Billie Holiday. Even though at some point he tries to change it, there's another time she's set up where he comes to her rescue, so to speak, by testifying in a way that allowed her to get off. She didn't actually, at least in the film, he testified in a way that said she was set up. So,
Mhm.
but again, what it says about the black man's relationship to the black woman is sad to me. Is that
I think
every man that came in, and I understand in that being an addict added to that, being that she couldn't have accepted love in another way. It would have been nice to have known, and there had to be one, we just wouldn't know. There's the man that presented himself to her that wanted to love her, even if she couldn't accept him, that wanted to, that made that attempt, that no matter what, was protective, was determined and defiant to be honorable for her. You don't, I mean, Jimmy Fletcher turns into that, but he comes from such a shisty, shitty place. I mean, she goes to jail for a freaking year
right.
as an addict, as an addict.
So you see her sitting there going through withdrawals in her cell, no treatment, no nothing, just puking and sweating. And I'm like, that's cruel and unusual punishment right there.
Yeah, yeah. Can we go back
Yeah.
to the fact to the song too? Ain't nobody's business. Ain't nobody's business. She did not write. That song's actually written by two men. Porter Granger and Everett Robbins. So it speaks to not only the times of the expectation of the woman as the mule. I would think that when that song was written, it was written for a black woman to sing.
Mm.
That's the other thing, the black woman
I
as the
think that,
mule. And
yeah, I
Billie
think that's
Holiday, to a certain extent, was the mule, but was also in control. She was quite the dichotomy, because she was the mule, but she was also very defiant and in control. This movie, it unpacks so much about patriarchy, about the government's ruthlessness to control the black narrative, the black mindset, understanding the power of music. So when we see, if we didn't understand the power of art before, didn't we get it during COVID anyway? How important
we got it during
art and
COVID.
music. Oh my God, COVID, like art saved most people's lives. Being able to
Hmm.
have access to art and music, but we understand the power of it and the need for the media to control the narrative. I think that when you see this film, I hope it opens up people's eyes to look at what you're presented with on a daily basis. And when you hear people talk about agendas, we're not going to go deep into this, but seriously, look at the narratives and the themes that keep coming up, or these new ideas that keep coming up. It is not by accident. And the powers that be that control the government, and also large corporations that work within the government, because Facebook is connected. There's Facebook. I mean, there's always been stories about Facebook collecting information, and it gets sold or used by I mean, the
Yeah.
government. So that's not an unusual thing. Now, this film, I think it's such a great piece because it gives you so much enlightenment if you are willing to see it. That's what I loved about the film. I was like, damn, good Lord, here's what
It's
we're dealing with. Go ahead.
it's staggering. It's staggering to me because it's like I said, it's a joke. That's not a joke. I need my white brothers and sisters to watch this White History Month and then put that next to Judas and the Black Messiah as a film. But then just even beyond the entertainment piece of it, this is just understand. This is literally the U.S. government throwing its weight around to murder people. I cannot sugarcoat that. I want to make it very clear. Your representatives, the people you voted for, they are literally using their power to kill people, US citizens, no less. This isn't some little third world country across. That's wrong too. But you are talking the US government using its power to murder. Let
Because
that sink in. To maintain a level of white supremacy.
exactly.
Let that sink in.
Yes. We must you must say that because the government is the guardian of white supremacy. So that's what you know from the film. And
Ooh.
here's what's gonna rub folks the wrong way. At the end of the film, now Harry Anslinger was with the government and the Federal Bureau of Narcotics for 30 years.
Yeah, he's
He
a he
retired,
tried to stop prohibition.
he
They
retired
mentioned
at
that.
62. Who is the president?
Everybody's favorite boy, JFK.
It's no way in hell that JFK didn't know about Anslinger's antics, that he was not aware of remember 62, Billie Holiday is dead in 59. It's no way John Kennedy did not know. And was it the Medal of Honor? What did he get?
Some
Some
high honor
major
medal of
honor when
some
he retires.
right.
Kennedy presents it to him. Let me just tell you, I watched that film with my mom. And by the way, folks have been asking about my mom. She's still in recovery and doing well, by the way, recovering from her illness. And we'll talk about that another time. But let me tell you what my mom did after watching the film. She says to me after we watched, she said, get that magnet off of my refrigerator. I said, what? She said, get that magnet with the Kennedys off of my refrigerator and throw it in the trash. Because she realized, we didn't even have a whole discussion because she realized after watching the film, it's no way Kennedy didn't know. And so here I go. So let's bring this back to modern times. So when you guys get mad at us for questioning your new president and anybody else who comes through, Democratic or Republican, because we question everybody. When you get mad at us for questioning what is happening in the government with these people that you love without question, that's not
Mm.
how we roll on this show. We're examining everything because we know historically what happens, and you find out 40 and 50 freaking years later the real deal. Most people on the planet, thought Billie Holiday died of a drug overdose. So we're going to give you the skinny on how Billie Holiday died. And we were able, and I was able to confirm again because I didn't just leave it to Lee Daniels to tell me. We went and I looked at some other information. She was in the hospital. She had gotten sick because of cirrhosis. And of course, she still was a drug addict. She goes into the hospital. Now, Billie Holiday desperately wanted to be clean. Let's say that. Let's talk about that. She wanted to be clean. The drugs were just one, but she was in the hospital to get treatment for cirrhosis and was supposed to go on methadone, like any drug addict is supposed to have methadone. The United States comes to her hospital room. Anslinger attempts to get her to cooperate. She would not cooperate. They supposedly found heroin in her hospital room. She is laying dying. They take her off of methadone. So, needless to say, she's already sickly. She's already sick because of cirrhosis. So, her body is not going to be able to go through a withdrawal without help. She's handcuffed to her bed. That was not in, that wasn't sensationalized by Lee Daniels. That actually happened. She's under arrest in her bed. and she dies in the bed of heart failure. That is how Billie Holiday died. So the government is directly involved with her death. All of this because they are afraid by singing a song written by a white Jewish Russian Jew, Marxist communist, that she is going to start and push the civil rights movement, meaning she's going to get Black people from being docile and complaining into actual movement, which for that reason, she died for the cause. Billie
I
Holiday died loving and deciding definitively she was going to stand for something. And I think that if nothing else, this film is so important. I loved what Diana Ross said. I've seen ladies, it's great entertainment value. This film informs you in a way and makes her the hero she should have been, not just because she's the sad, downtrodden jazz singer who you love to listen to, who sounded like an instrument. She's all those things. But the courage and strength after all the shit she had been through, after the abuse as an adult woman, as the abuse as a child, being a drug addict, she still had the state of mind to say, I'm standing for something, even if
I
it kills me. And what is sad to me again is that I wanted to see her more protected in the film by the
Mhm.
by
But
but
this is
you know,
like, wow, you juxtapose that to certain figures who cannot seem to do a decisively Black thing their entire political
oh,
career.
where are
But
you
we,
going?
wow, wow,
Where are
why isn't
you
that something?
where are you
You
going?
know, everybody's favorite, your favorite president of mine, Mr. Barack Obama, you can't
Oh,
seem to do anything definitively Black to save what part of your Blackness there is, sir.
oh,
Here
oh,
you have Billie Holiday rewind time, and those times were on a regular, just woman level, you are unprotected. And
are
now
you
you have the audacity to put the middle finger to the US government in the name of Blackness.
in the name of blackness?
And
In the
yo,
name of
dumb.
love. That's really love for your community and love for your
Mm,
people. It is I can't because I can't it is Martin Luther King. She was Martin Luther King before Martin Luther King, really.
mhm. And yet
Okay.
you got this cat talking about don't say defund the police, you lose the message. And oh, by the way, I have this podcast with this really cool white artist coming out. Like,
Go ahead and go. Go ahead and go. You know,
hey, hey,
go ahead and go.
hey,
Yep.
Barack Obama has a podcast coming out with Bruce Springsteen, the boss.
Oh God, here we go. And what is the name of the podcast?
Renegades of the USA.
Okay. You know what? I would say
Wow, wow, sir, wow. Let me just
um
find the nearest white thing and stand as close as I can to it.
let oh God, here we go. Oh, here we go. So okay, so okay, so you have just exposed or just brought Barack Obama into the conversation. And it is that I mean, it is what it is. Barack Obama stopped the NBA. Remember, he stopped the
Oh,
basketball
I forgot
strike
about
team.
that. Oh, that's strike
He
three.
comes
Forgot about
with
that.
a snappy slogan. So I said that this to you. He would be akin to Jimmy Fletcher.
Hmm. Hmm.
He
Yeah,
would,
yeah.
and again, this isn't about any kind of hate. I don't hate. I get the optics of Barack Obama being so important, having the black man with the black wife who, being biracial, definitively defined himself as black. Those things are important. But we get to see a person. See, there's no pressure now. We can't we can't say he couldn't do because Congress stopped him and he didn't have participation in the Republic. He's a regular citizen now who is using his power and influence his in his significant power and influence, and we see the ways that it is being used. It is used to keep us docile in the way that Harry Anslinger used black agents to keep us docile. I don't know what this podcast is going to do, but Bruce Springsteen, and here's the thing, we like Bruce Springsteen well enough. Bruce Springsteen's job is not to be the protector and move black the black civil rights struggle. That's not it, and we don't expect that from Bruce. Bruce Springsteen is the liberal who loves the USA, got black friends and loves black causes, but still is the black, excuse me, is the white patriot. I mean, he is the patriot guy. I'm a liberal, but I'm still a patriot. There's the you that in that position, he's only going to go so far in supporting
Mm.
black, black, like Bruce
He might
Springsteen.
not be out there with the
Bruce
Black Lives
Springsteen,
Matter sign.
right? He ain't gonna lead the charge for reparations. He gonna get quiet when you start talking about reparations. So he's not even gonna be on a podcast where that discussion is gonna happen. That's all I'm gonna say. That equality is really closing the gaps. It's not trickle down economics, not let's do it for all and it benefits. Like you go, this is the years and years of abuse and the system has worked against folks. So we got to close. That means some of y'all gonna have to, you're gonna have to take less and you're gonna have to remove yourself from privilege. I don't see Bruce Springsteen being that guy. Not that he's a bad man. So this isn't really about, let's be clear, this isn't about Bruce Springsteen. This
Right.
is about when Barack Obama made a choice to do a podcast, and believe me, he could have chosen anyone. He could have chose Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson. Well, Cornel West, no.
Good, chose us.
God, let me just say, he wasn't going. Lord, what am I saying? Cornel West. That relationship, good
Yeah,
Lord.
that wasn't gonna happen.
That okay? That's like a cockfight. Okay. So that wasn't going to happen. But there's somebody he could have chose. I mean, I can't think of off the top of my head, but there's someone else. And again, see, you opened up that can of worms, and I got
That's been bugging me since I heard it, and it's like I think it's just the juxtaposition. It goes back to I don't think there were because you posed a question yesterday off air, and we were talking about it. Like the thing that bothered you, and I get it, is that these brothers, when it came down to it, had no fight. And I think the
had no
difference
fight.
between then and now is, well, what could you do? Like you just said, until like yesterday, I'm under the impression Billie died of an overdose because that's the narrative we were fed by the very same government that tried and seemingly successfully to kill her. You what when at that point in time, there you are clearly under the government's thumb, and you can easily find yourself swinging from a tree. That's not overselling it.
Listen, somebody's going to die for the cause. Billie was the only one in this narrative willing to do it. So the Jimmy Fletcher character, who's all torn up after she dies, I'm calling in the NAACP. I'm calling in those radicals. I don't know what I would have wanted him to do, but I wanted him to do something else. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I want brothers to do something else when there's 20 of them and 2 white cops in the community killing a 13-year-old.
Right now there's a chance.
Stand around and film. But see, this is here we go. We can't let it go. It is the continuation of making Black men afraid specifically and docile, or they're wanting to be, or thinking that they're helping the community by being a part of what white folks have done to control us. Like, no, this is a good thing because we get the drugs out, knowing damn not smart enough to know how did they get there, like not asking the real questions. So I see a continuation of this. Again, 20 Negroes standing around. Black Panther Party would have never. Fred Hampton would have never. And if you have not
That's a
seen
problem.
Judas and the Black Messiah, please see it. I have not seen it yet. It is my duty to see it this weekend. But how many people didn't need first of all, white folks didn't even know who Fred Hampton was. White folks don't even have never even heard of Fred Hampton. So
White History Month. Another part of your White History Month watching. Find out. Your government can
No,
literally
stop
kill
calling it
them.
White History Month. Let's start calling it. We deserve as much American history. So finally, you're getting some real American history in Black History Month. How about that?
Yeah,
You're getting some real information, and you're understanding that what you saw in 2020 is just the beginning of the awakening. Like white folks are like, oh my God, I didn't know black towns exist that white folks destroyed. You've not seen,
yeah,
you ain't heard nothing yet. You know of Tuskegee and you know of Henrietta Lacks. There's a whole plethora of experimentation on black folks. You only this is only you're only just that you're just uncovering.
yeah.
There's a
And that's,
whole
and
gamut.
just to be clear, when I say White History Month, is for those who say, well, Black History. Why is there a Black White History Month? And like I said, I will find the sister's name,
Oh,
but she did a joke on it.
we
Like, yeah,
don't
you're
care.
right. Let's have White History Month. Let's talk about your history then. Since you don't want to talk about Black history, cool. Let's really unpack white history and look at what your white government has done. Honestly,
Well,
let's take the Black aspect out of it for a second, and you just look at what your government, your elected officials, are guilty of. I
and
was shocked at how many white people didn't know Black Wall Street existed.
that's what I
What?
heard. Black, that's what I just alluded
That
to.
was,
Black towns,
yeah,
black. That's
that
only
happened. Yes,
no,
that
no.
happened.
People don't know that Central Park was a black community. Central Park in New York, which you love, was land that was inhabited by black people. There was a black town there. Yeah,
Mhm.
Central Park.
I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this into a park for you. Don't worry.
Anyway, listen. Um, Andrew Day did a great job
Yep.
on the film. Lee Daniels, again, I had to look at the film twice to really appreciate it. I really did. The first time, and I've seen critics talk about this, that it moves slowly, that it moves away too many times from Billie Holiday. I think this is a film less about Billie Holiday and more about, well, not less about Billie Holiday, but there's so many things that it exposes. It's not just about Billie Holiday. It's about the government. I mean, we just talked about it. It's a bigger picture than just Billie Holiday. It's not Lady Sings the Blues. It's not that. It is an expose. Really, this is what this film is. It's an expose of what happened, clarity about you get clarity about who she was, but you get the points about the government going after her for death, what she stood for. So it's a different kind of film. So you may have to watch it more than once to really appreciate it. Because I don't think I appreciated it as much until I saw it the second time. Also, please, I think you might want to check out the Billy documentary. Again, that filmmaker is John Erskine, who does that film. Really worth a watch if you really want to understand and get a real history of Billie Holiday, who was an incredible, who I have so much respect for. I don't know if I love the music as much though, but I love her more. Like I still can't like that. Ain't nobody's been this rubbed me the wrong way. And also there's so much sadness. But here's the song when Billie Holiday was asked that encompasses her life and speaks to her, and it is a song called "Don't Explain," and it is about the lover leaving or being abused and coming back. And she's saying, "Don't, I know you love me and how what love endures." So it's a song about complicated love, but don't explain it. Let's just go on as we normally do. And the song is poignant, and that's the song she said would have spoken her life. So, and to think that Billie Holiday was only 44.
Like that's the other thing. Like, how many greats did we lose before their time? Fred Hampton was 20. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know exact age, but didn't Sam Cooke die pretty young too?
Sam Cooke, I don't think Sam Cooke made it to 40. Martin Luther King didn't make it to 40.
Did
I think
Malcolm? Like,
no,
wow, like
I
it,
think Martin Luther King was only 38. The other thing is that, and I think Martin Luther King was 38. The other thing about these folks that you understand is that They are old souls. They are old souls. When you look at Billie Holiday looks, I mean, the drugs, of course, contributed to it, but Billie Holiday looks very much when she dies like somebody who's 60. Um, Martin felt older. I don't know if he
And
looked old, but I mean, when you look
he,
at
f-
Martin King, you would have thought he was a man at least 45, right?
yeah,
Wait,
he
when
definitely has some sage wisdom grandfather vibes going. Like he was well ahead of where
Fred
he was according to the clock.
Fred Hampton felt he's
I-
only 20. I don't, you said it's not clear in the film, but Fred
when you
Hampton,
watch this film, yeah, when you watch the film, you tell me what you think. I don't know how if there was a better way Shaka Kane or the director could have captured it, but there it doesn't immediately jump off the screen that you are looking at a 19-year-old. I'm like, what? Because of course, lines out a lot of things at the end of the film, like what really happened and things like that. But sitting there reading that in both, because I knew of Chairman Fred, I didn't know the whole story, but to read on that screen, Chairman Fred died at 20. Excuse me,
he was
was
20
murdered
because he was only 20. He wasn't 21.
at most 21.
Okay. We're gonna save
Yeah,
this. We're gonna save
yeah.
that. But we encourage folks to see the film. I'm gonna see the film. I'm gonna make sure to see the film this weekend. That film is on HBO Max. Is that correct? Or in the theater?
Yes.
Okay. The people versus excuse me, the United States, because one of the people, the United States versus Billie Holiday is on Hulu today. It is being released today.
And that's
It if you don't have Hulu, it's worth you getting the 30-day trial just to watch.
think about that even. Just little nuanced things. Think about that. The
What am I?
United States versus Billie Holiday. Like, when do drug possession charge rise to the level of federal? Like, this should
It
have been.
wasn't about. She could have just like many other jazz people. She could have cra- OD'd herself out. They would have been fine with that. It is the power of her voice. It is the power of her steadfastness. It was the fact that she would not back down, that she understood what that song meant. She understood the message and she was determined to get it out. That's a great question you pose because right, it isn't about the drug. They don't give a because then she would have been another junkie, which was the narrative for many years. There has been the narrative for many years until now. It is very clear now that she was way more than that. I mean, even though we understood her talent, but she didn't. That wasn't the ultimate death for her. It was the government's interference with her life, and at the time of her sickness, making sure that her ending was death. Just like we know now, Martin didn't die from the gunshot. He was actually killed in the hospital. I mean, we just know these things now. It is the federal government, for those of you who didn't know, has finally did take responsibility for the murder of Martin Luther King. I don't think many people knew that. If you didn't know that, please know it now. So, um, I say we're gonna give it
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Two thumbs up.
two
Two
thumbs
thumbs up.
up.
Yeah.
We highly recommend that you see it. And before I go, I got all this junk in front of me, but this is our last February podcast. So I'm gonna show my shirt. Y'all don't know how close this stuff is next to me that I gotta stand up so you can see it. Um, this is, can you see it?
Yeah.
This sweatshirt is amazing.
I gotta
Um,
get me one of those.
this is a company offline. Evolve is the company. I actually bought this sweatshirt like a year ago, and just I'm like this. Look at, I mean, look how
Yeah, it looks. How's it? Is it warm?
it is amazing. I love this And look at, can you see the detail, the pleating in the,
I
that,
can.
that is awesome.
Some
It is
old Janet
awesome.
Jackson Rhythm Nation type stuff going on there. That's what's
It
up.
is awesome. And it's just so you see it again. So we are supporting Black business. I'm supporting, so you can't see this, but that's the tag. It is Evolve. I will make sure the information um, is in, and I'm also, someone asked me about the earrings I had been wearing on the other shows, and I'm going to go back and put all that information in those, in the description for all those shows, so you can get the actual items that I've worn on the show to support Black business. So we are last for, and this is, it doesn't stop here. And I will be continuing with the wine. We have some Black owned wine companies that I'll be indulging in happily.
All right.
So yeah, so that's it. We're gonna wrap this up. Please see this film. Lee Daniels, you did a great job. Andra Day, you did a great job. First film out, girl. Yeah,
That was heavy. That was
yeah.
heavy.
And keep in mind, Andra Day has always been um her, even her name gives honor to Billie Holiday because she's Cassandra Beatty. So Andra is a takeoff of her real name, and Day is a takeoff of Holiday. So she's, you know, just in her presence is already and always sounded like her, and then took the next level to become her. And I think she did a great job for, especially a first time actress. So see the film. I think that's it. We wanted to give that to you, and you guys asked for it, so you got it. Join us next time for our next episode of Everybody Loves Bliss. Um, and if no one has told you today, we love you and we want the best for you. Say bye to the people, Ross.
Bye bye.